Stream it to that too.
Welcome to the Prisoner to Painter podcast, stories of inspiration, where we talk about mental health, addiction, religion, becoming a business owner and self-sufficient, for what, when, where, and why. Join us and we can be your local hope dealer.
Inspiration and dedication. I came a long way from sleeping in them cages. I got my life back. I feel amazing. Life's a book, don't get stuck on sad pages. Rainy days with no money. Hard work leads to days that are sunny. Looking back, it was all needed. The problems, the pain, the trauma, the grieving. You are now tuned in to the prisoner to painter. Prisoner to painter. Hard work, dedication. Rainy days, inspiration. Prisoner to painter.
And now, a word from your local hope dealer.
StreamYard.
Awesome. Welcome to the Prisoner to Painter podcast. I'm Nathan McDermott.
And I am Katie McDermott.
And today joining us again is Mr. Derek Dobies.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Thank you for coming on,
Thanks for
man.
coming in.
Dude, well, it's funny because we say when we really like somebody, we'll invite them back on, but we invited you back on for a different reason. You are running for mayor.
You don't like me.
Well,
I don't know about him.
no, actually, I feel like I'm a little maybe too vocal about it. There's been other people we've had on, and I'm like, I really like Derek, and they're like, well, we do. So I don't know what to say.
That's
do.
fair.
Man. So we invited you back on because you're running for mayor for a second time, third time.
This would be my third time.
Third time.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. But you've won once before.
Twice.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So I won in 2017,
Awesome.
and then got reelected in 2019,
Awesome.
and served through 2021.
Cool. So you got the raw end of the deal on serving through COVID then.
Yep, I served through COVID.
Awesome.
Yep, and that was kind of one of the reasons why I chose to not run for a third term, take some time off, be with the family. You know, leading through COVID was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot for families. It was also a lot for government, and a lot as a leader too.
Mm-hmm. I can only imagine. Yeah. Well, and then a lot of the stuff that Jackson, as big as it feels, it's still small. So that's a lot to take on for a city, right?
Yeah, I think there was, looking back at it, there were a lot of things that we kind of know now that, I think everybody wishes that, we could have known earlier about like social distancing and what sort of precautions we could take to keep everybody safe. There was just a lot of stuff. I mean, I even was like wiping groceries down at some point because everyone was kind of freaking out in terms of what we can do to protect ourselves and our families.
Yeah.
But it was something that we got through. I had an opportunity to serve on the governor's commission on kind of what we could do, not only in our communities but across the state. And we got through it, and we dedicated one of my last things that we did on the last day in office was I was able to dedicate Workers Memorial Park right off of MLK to be able to commemorate and really help lift up some of the healthcare heroes that we had here in Jackson.
In case some of the people fall off, I wanted to ask this at the beginning, and I'm going to ask a question like it at the end. A lot of people on social media, good or bad about you. Is there anything that you have to say to people that like anybody can't run for mayor? Like what you're doing is difficult. It looks like you probably catch a lot of flack for it. So you're doing it for love of the game, love of Jackson. So what would you tell the people that are kind of like being dicks to you?
Well, I'm not sure if those people would want to talk to me, but I'll say like anybody can run. You got to live in the city and be a registered voter for a year here in the city to be able to run. So anybody can do it. You got to circulate 100, 150 valid signatures within the city, and that qualifies you to have your name placed on the ballot. So that's kind of like the qualification phase. There's a lot of people that are eligible under that criteria. I think that I'm a good choice for a number of different reasons, including, beyond just kind of my experience and kind of understanding the city, knowing some of the issues that we face and having a record of accomplishments of dealing with some of those issues. I think that part of the ability to get stuff done is having support from a diversity of interests, whether you're Democrat, Republican, anything in between, pro-business, pro-labor. I've worked with over 30 different, elected officials that also share that diversity. So I've been able to gain a lot of experience just in developing relationships and listening to others and being collaborative as possible to be able to make decisions. And I think with that collaboration comes good policy and ultimately, the ability to move the city forward and progress on a number of different issues.
I like how you said with collaboration comes good policy. So like who all would be collaborating with you to enact and change policy? And what do you think that would benefit our town?
Well, I think great question. First and foremost, the city council sets a policy. They vote along with the mayor. The mayor is one vote on council. I've been endorsed by almost all of the current sitting council members, county commissioners, because I've been there. I've worked with them. They've seen some of the things that I've been able to do. I think that that's important of having like the trust of those that you're going to be working with to identify and solve some of those issues. I think secondly, those within City Hall, you can come in and say you're going to do all sorts of shit. But if you don't have the trust and support of some of those that actually work at City Hall, the city manager, city attorney, there's really only one person that works for the city council, and that's the city manager. They appoint some of the other positions, but really most everybody at City Hall works for the city manager. And so having a good relationship with them, I think is important to be able to get stuff done. So I think I've been able to work with now, I think 3 different city managers. I was mayor when Jonathan Green, the current city manager, kind of took over, and have continued to have a great working relationship with him. And then, secondly, outside of, the political collaboration, the internal kind of governmental collaboration, I think there's collaboration with community partners and just residents in general. One of the things that I saw as important to do in my first 2 terms as mayor was to create a number of different boards and commissions to really access some of the talent that we have in the community, from the Public Arts Commission, the Environmental Commission, Racial Equity Commission, the Affordable Housing Development Board, like different things that we can do, different boards that we can create to work on kind of niche areas of the city to identify different problems and propose different solutions that we can take to city council. And so getting more folks involved in identifying and solving those problems, I think, is kind of the collaboration that is really necessary to really get stuff done for the city.
All right.
It's really hard for me to say this because the point of what we do here is to give everybody a voice. Social media is giving everybody a voice, which is not always a good thing. So what we're trying to do is kind of like counterproductive almost. But so I say all that to say because it seems like a lot of people yelling, and I'm just excited to get to ask some questions.
Yeah,
and I feel like a bunch of people are. It's like yelling at the void, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes. It's like, you probably don't check the comments. Same with any other mayor, or like I'm talking like the ones that 400 or 500 comments of people just bickering with each other. Like you're probably never on there. So which I never understood why people are yelling at each other.
You know what you need to do is like pick some of the best comments, like mean tweets, and just come on here and just read some of them.
Idea.
I think we should do a mean tweet.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
We should. That's great.
Yeah. Wow, that's funny. Looking back at your first term, which accomplishment do you think aged the best and continues to help Jackson today?
I think that there are a variety of different things that we were able to do kind of in my first term, and kind of I think the city really hit a turning point with the non-discrimination ordinance of realizing that some of these long debated issues that were kind of in front of the city council at various points, in front of the various commissions, and the non-discrimination ordinance being one of them that was around for like 40 years before we were able to get that done. I think that was a real, whether you support the non-discrimination ordinance or oppose it at the time, or maybe now support it now, You know, I think it was back in the day in 2017, controversial to some, but not to me. But I think that was a turning point, setting just the policy itself aside, of people starting to understand that, like, oh, like some of these big systemic things or big policy issues that have just kind of lingered around forever are actually like getting done and can get done. And I think that gets back to your point of, like, people are frustrated, they're angry, they're, spewing toxicity online. I think that probably is part of the root of some of that frustration is people see that they show up, they vote, sometimes depending on where you live every year, and they don't see stuff getting done. And they get frustrated. They see the system that continues to, not work for them and continues to work for the wealthy and well-connected, frankly. And so I think when local folks can advocate, can focus in on a policy, and can actually get something passed, I think that sets in motion, a couple of dominoes of, oh, well, what are the other things that we can actually do working together and get done for the city? So I think that was one part of it. The other part is, when I first moved here, you could roll a bowling ball downtown and not hit a thing. You could either hit Daryl's or you could hit Dr. Don's strip club. And the ability for us to come in with a plan, an overall economic stabilization plan, put that into effect, invest in ourselves, tear up downtown. And there was at the time, a lot of pushback to redeveloping downtown. Now we can see the fruits of that labor, and people, again, it's what we can do to make people feel like their government is working for them and they're seeing a return on their investment.
There's a South Park episode that I use this all the time, but you'll see where I'm going with this. So Randy Marsh is like buying groceries, and you're like, would you like to pay $1 for kids that are hungry? He's like, I can't afford it today. And the lady's like, okay, here's a kid. Now take the sandwich out of this kid's mouth. And he's like, what? He's like, take the sandwich out of this kid's mouth. You want him to starve. You don't want to give him $1. Take the sandwich out of his mouth. So I'm saying, do you, with the pushback on some of your things that are right, does it just seem like, I don't even know what the right word is. A circle jerk is what I was going to say.
No, does it seem counterproductive that you're trying to do something that people have pushback, but it really could be something that people could benefit from?
Well, and some things are just good, no matter what. Like anybody looking at it knows it's good. How do you argue something like that?
I think the approach that I've taken is, I know that outside of running unopposed, like nobody ever gets 100% of the vote, right? Understood. So, you get a majority of the vote. And what's important, I think, is that you're able to, in a campaign, communicate the things that you would do if elected, and to be able to follow through on that stuff. And that requires, some leadership and experience and relationships and the ability to actually get that stuff done and not just have it be empty promises. But if you can really articulate what are the problems that you see, what are the proposed solutions that you would bring forth in that office, then I think, people can be mad about that, but they can't necessarily be surprised. And I think that, I've gotten 55% of the vote, between that, maybe a little bit higher when I was running for city council, but there are people that maybe just like the other guy. Like when I first ran for mayor, the current incumbent mayor was Bill Jors. Incredibly nice guy. We just were on kind of different sides of the aisle with, in particular, to the non-discrimination ordinance. There were people that voted for him that may have liked me, but maybe they just went to school with him or just knew Bill. And was a nice guy, but, weren't necessarily opposed to the things that I was laying out and wanted to do. There are probably some folks that are opposed that supported Bill to the things, but are not going to do it and not going to oppose in like a destructive way. I always say we can disagree. I see Russ Jennings' name here. You know, we can, I've said this to Russ before, like we can disagree without being disagreeable. And we can like have policy debates and engage in a discussion on what the solutions are and collaborate with one another, compromise. Compromise isn't a dirty word. It's how you get stuff done from time to time. And outside of those people that may disagree without being disagreeable, there are going to be people that disagree and are disagreeable and are going to, you know, comment on everything and show up to city council meetings and oppose you just, you know, for getting out of bed in the morning. So having been in office for 10 years, you get a lot of pretty thick skin. You flex your spine and, you know, you grow a stronger spine. And, you know, ultimately, you know, people may disagree with the direction that I think we can go and how I would see kind of leading the city in the next 2 years. But, you know, that's their decision. And I've been going door to door and been getting a lot of support. And a lot of the folks that I see on, you know, public commenters and stuff are folks that, you know, maybe are politically engaged, but don't necessarily live in the city.
So you mentioned in your previous answer that there's some things that are like unfinished. If you had to pick one project that you're most eager to pick back up, what would it be?
Ooh, good question. You know, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is the Hayes Hotel. That is currently under construction now. I think that they are working on the first couple of floors there, but that is a huge flagship project for downtown that I would love to continue to work on and see through to fruition. There is the MLK Corridor Improvement Authority that has been continuing to redevelop Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Excited to see kind of the fruits of that labor, including locating a city grocery store or some sort of grocery store in the south side, coming off of downtown right now. I think what they're looking at is Workers Memorial Park there. Those are two kind of big projects, but, you know, I'm a policy nerd, so I have a whole like Google list of different things that I'd like to see get done. And there are some things, frankly, from my tenure that I wasn't able to get done in my second term, kind of as time was winding down. So I'd like to get some of those pieces across the finish line as well.
You seem to focus a lot on like urban development. What do you think that can benefit our community as a whole, developing more of the city?
Yeah, well, you know, as a urban planning nerd and someone who participated in the last city master planning process, I think that's important. I mean, the key functions of our city government are, one, to keep us safe. That's why we invest a lot of our general funds in police and fire services. And two, to provide other essential services. So wastewater removal, making sure that all of the waste can get out of town and be processed in an environmentally conscious way, making sure that people have clean potable water, and other infrastructure, you know, fixing our roads, installing new street lights, the mast arms that help kind of frame in the road. There's a whole lot of different aspects of the city that like make me excited, even from like tabletop like walkways and stuff that improve pedestrian safety. You know, I think a lot of that stuff is exciting to me. So, and yeah, infrastructure is a huge component of being able to make Jackson a place where future families and businesses want to locate. So nobody wants to come to a downtown. No one wants to come to a city where the downtown looks like there's only 2 restaurants or like there's a strip club right downtown, you know. I liken it to if you're trying to like sell your house and attract people to invest and buy a house or whatever, like you have to fix up your house, right? You got to do some of the different treatments that kind of help dress it up, give it some curb appeal, and make sure that you're investing in some of the places that sell bathrooms, kitchens, things like that. For cities, that's your downtowns, that's your little neighborhood kind of business nooks, and then it's your neighborhoods as well.
I agree, man. Do you ever plan on doing a meet and greet? Because I feel like some people might not like you because they've never met you. Because like me and Katie were talking about this. I was like, I really fucking like that guy. Like really, I really like him. And I was like, I just was curious if you were going to do a meet and greet because I'm like, I think people would really like him if they they talk to him. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know, I found I have my first campaign kind of kickoff event April 20th, so 420.
Yeah, rock on.
Rock on. So right downtown, and we're going to be getting some information out about that. But that'll be, I think it's a Monday night. And then, you know, I'll be doing different events throughout the year. One of the things that I found really valuable, because oftentimes when you make yourself available, it's kind of the same people that show up. Similar to like a city council meeting when like, here's the space where twice a month we are going to be. It's oftentimes the same people. So what I do and what I've done on my campaigns is do just an incredible amount of door to door, knocking on people's doors, talking to them. I just gathering signatures, talk to an individual, you know, it was a very conservative individual for about an hour. And at the end of it, you know, we started with talking about like the LGBT community and the transgender community and went all the way through, you know, kind of lead service line replacement, talked for an hour. It was pretty cold. It was like 40 degrees or something like that. But, you know, talked for an hour. And then at the end of the day, he signed my petition, said that he would vote for me and said I'm probably, you know, the first person that he's, you know, voted for or like that in the city of Jackson. So I think that there's people that, because we've been so polarized and we've been so ingrained in, you know, I'm a Democrat, they're a Republican, you know, so on and so forth, that really like, it comes down to like, you know, we're fixing streets, we're making sure the water is clean, and we're trying to find ways to attract more residents and more businesses to the city, because back to your other point, you know, this city is built for 60,000 people back in its heyday. Now we got 33 and a half trying to pay for that remaining infrastructure. So it's incredibly important for the future of Jackson to be able to locate more future residents and future businesses to locate here, to not only help share the cost of maintaining that infrastructure, but hopefully to lessen the costs on those that are currently paying for it.
I was just going to ask, how do you ride that fine line of developing and attracting more people without gentrifying and pushing out the current residents?
Yeah, for sure. So I think part of it is the more individuals that we recruit, there's still a lot of spaces. You can see from the 100 Homes project that there's plenty of spaces within the city where we can still build new, plenty of spaces where we can recruit new businesses to locate here, particularly on East Michigan Avenue, which I think should be a huge component of any candidates for mayor as future plans, is to take the progress that we see downtown and stretch it along East Michigan Avenue from the train station out to Horton Road. You know, I think that the more residents that we recruit here, the easier it is for the individuals that are here to, I guess, share in some of those costs. And I think that the city over the last decade has been cognizant of that, has been investing in areas that have been traditionally underserved for decades, thinking of the MLK area, and also, you know, starting to invest more in affordable housing projects. You see a lot of that downtown with some of the, you know, the Albert Count apartments, the Greenwood that just went up, and you see it with 100 Homes that, you know, are going in here. And, you know, affordability is a broad range. You know, there's going to be people that say they can't afford, those 100 homes, which is why we have to have a whole range of different options for folks here in Jackson.
Is there a way, or is there a door that you're going to use for green energy, like solar power or anything like that? Is that something big for Jackson, or any thoughts on that?
A lot of what is guided at the local level comes from state and federal dollars. So those things are highly politicized. They change, but you can see. I think that at some point, we are going to revisit, electric vehicles and make federal investments in those sorts of activities and in industries. And I think that cities should prepare for that. That's one of the things that we were talking about, in my second term as mayor when President Biden took over, and we started to make a lot of investments in those as a kind of output of trying to reinvigorate the economy coming out of COVID. And I think at some point we'll get back to that, and it's going to be incumbent on cities between now and then to prepare for that, to be able to have, when you are fixing a parking lot or thinking about different infrastructure, how do we make sure that infrastructure is suitable for electric vehicles or electric fleet and things like that. Those are some of the things, frankly, that we just did on Jackson Public Schools Board of Education. We have an electric bus fleet now. Saves a lot of money, saves a lot of on pollution, things like that. So those take charging stations. And so when you think about not only that, but maybe the economy shifting towards the electrification industry, like people are going to start to plan their trips and where they stop and spend their money based on where those charging ports are. So being on the 94 corridor, if we don't make those investments, people are going to drive from Detroit to Chicago and maybe choose to stop in Ann Arbor or pass by Jackson to stop in Kalamazoo because they can get to there to charge their vehicle. Being that Jackson is also on 127 and is a kind of conduit north and south as well. I think that's something that we should be taking a look at, and not necessarily making all of those improvements imminently, but thinking about that as we do our site plan work and as different parcels develop and are looking for tax credits and licenses. That's something to consider. If you go to Loom, speaking of 420, if you go to Loom, they have a solar port. They have charging stations.
They got them. I was going to say that.
Well, those are all policy decisions, right? So in order to get a license, we made the regulations that is a point-based system. You got certain points for doing certain things. One, based on workers, if you pay your workers a good wage, if you offer them healthcare benefits or some sort of other compensation, 401k or something like that, then you get more points, because we don't want to just attract any business here. We want good businesses that treat their workers well, so that those workers can take that money and invest back in the community and other businesses and things like that. And one of the other things that we did with the marijuana licenses, retail licenses, was around solar charging stations, fenestration, all of the different landscaping. So you go to Loom, there's bushes everywhere. There's glass out. It's a beautiful building and beautiful site. All of that was a policy decision.
That makes sense, because I'm they're the best looking one. And so that makes sense. But they're also the only one in city limits, right?
No, if you go to Cookies.
Oh, there's also Jars in city limits?
Oh,
yep,
Jars
I think came in after I left. But Cookies was started there, kind of just on the other side of the tracks across from the train station. You go there was nothing there. Now there's curbs. There's like street lighting. You kind of like show up in this area where nothing else really exists. And there's like a whole bunch of infrastructure there because of the policies that we put into place.
They just did the parking lot across from the courthouse, and it looks like they have like carports with solar on top. I might be wrong. Is that something we could do like large scale, like instead of, you know, taking up some farmland to put a solar farm in, maybe putting overhangs on all of our parking lots to get solar?
Yeah, well, you know, and I think that there are certainly those opportunities, and where there's like new builds to be able to do that, to offset some of the energy costs from those buildings. We also at Jackson Public Schools invest in some of those larger solar fields as part of larger conglomerates to be able to reduce our own energy costs and make those projects more viable. You know, I think it can be done at a variety of different scales. There's a lot of brownfields in the city that I think could be suitable places for, you know, we don't necessarily need to go in and like clean up every industrial site, but they could be used for some of those solar purposes, to really help reduce our energy costs and create a cleaner, greener community.
I'm gonna go on a tangent there. So
you're on the Drive Jackson, right? You're on Drive Jackson.
I'm not on the committee, but
okay.
You know.
Then that's it. Then
I'm aware about it.
Okay. Well, because my question was going to be, you're going to be alive to see all of the stuff that's changing. Some of the people are too old that they won't get to see it. So my question was going to be, like, how does it? I don't know what my question was going to be, but I was like, so some of those guys aren't going to be around to see what they're trying to do.
I'm fairly old. I just turned 40, so
you're not even old. So.
Oh, you're not even. God,
there are a ton of when I feel old is when like college kids come back and they're like, oh yeah, like Mr. Dobies or like Mayor Dobies. When I was mayor, they're like, yeah, you came in like read to my like 3rd grade class. I'm like, wait, oh my God, I probably did as like a city council person. So.
There was a child that did not know who Nelly was because something about a Band-Aid on the face was like Nelly. They're like, who is that? Like, oh my God.
You don't know country grammar? Oh my
God. No. So I feel like a lot of people think that, and I'm one of them actually, because you'll hear me bitching about taxes and stuff. And I don't know what I'm talking about, honestly. I don't, but so 2 years is not a lot of time to change anything. 4 years as president, and I'm not even sticking up for him or any president, but 4 years is not a lot of time to change anything either. So how do you take people's expectations of we need change with reality that
implementation of
that it's probably take a year to even get it going. So
yeah. Well, I think, you know, that's a great question. And I think that a lot of people think, you know, if they run for mayor saying, I'm going to change everything. And, you know, the reality is, I was just talking about this with some other folks, is that like back to how change happens, kind of your kind of theory of change, it rests on your ability to have good relationships with those that are helping you to build that change. So the city council, with the individuals at City Hall too, someone can say whatever and can just come in. And if you don't have the backing of City Hall, it makes it a lot harder to drive that change. I think, you know, 2 years is short. Frankly, you're basically, you know, picking up halfway through a previous budget of expenditures and stuff. But I think that my proximity to City Hall and some of the relationships that I have there, like I'm pretty confident that, you know, in 2 years we'll be able to get a lot of stuff done and explain what that means and explain some of the hurdles of challenges that we face in overcoming some of those obstacles and be frank about it. And again, like I said, it goes back to conversations and collaboration and getting more people involved in helping to find out what those solutions are and how quickly we can put them together.
Awesome. And it also seems like, and I'm not trying to put any words in it seems like you and Mr. Mahoney are pretty good friends or might have been in the past. Is it easier to pick up for somebody that you maybe see eye to eye with on policy than it is picking up after
somebody that you don't?
Yeah, freaking goofball or something.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know, for Short answer, yeah. I mean, yes. Daniel, I think I thought very highly of him, when I chose to not run for a third term and asked him to kind of step up and said that if he ran, I would support him.
Awesome.
Ultimately, that he did. We don't see eye to eye on everything, for sure. We're all human and we all have our different opinions, make mistakes. And I try not to Monday morning quarterback anything, just kind of as a spectator. And, former mayor, I kind of told him and told anybody else, like, happy to give you my perspective, happy to help in any way that I can. But ultimately, these decisions are yours and yours to make. But I do think it is helpful. Daniel and I have become good friends. I actually, we golf at LS Sharp. I let him just whoop my ass. So if you talk to him, I'm letting him do it. But he is a ringer. I'll say that.
I don't know. This is an AI question. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what it means, but I know you're going to know what it means.
Okay.
This election will have a much higher turnout probably due to an even year shift. Mm-hmm. What is your message to those voters who might be engaging for the first time in politics this year?
Let me get ChatGPT to answer this. So it's a great question, AI. This is actually the first year that the mayor's race is going to be in an even year. So a couple of years back, the city made a decision we used to have odd year elections. So in like 23, 25, 2025, odd year elections that were only city elections. And obviously there's a lower turnout than like a presidential election because there's, you don't have the billions of dollars that are spent on, a presidential campaign or whatever, telling you to go vote and annoying you until you're like, I'm going to vote absentee so you stop talking.
Yeah, no super PAC or anything like
right.
that. Yeah.
So they made a decision to take the city elections and move them to even years. One, for a couple of reasons. One, I think there is higher turnout, like we just talked about, and more people engaging and talking about city affairs, I think makes for better policy. And two, the cost, to run an election in the city is about $30,000. So moving to a year where the gubernatorial or presidential races, elections are already happening, I think, saves the city about 30 grand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
now doing that, does it short anybody on their term? Like because
it actually, you can't shorten anybody's term. What they had to do was lengthen the terms.
Okay.
So that's why Mayor Mahoney ran twice, but getting elected to his second term, instead of a 2-year term, it was a 3-year term.
Okay.
So he ended up getting elected twice, but serving 5 years. And then the wards 1, 3, and 5, they went to like 5-year terms. So 2, 4, and 6 are already on 5-year terms. And then this past year or whatever, they 1, 3, and 5 went to 5 years, so that the next time that they're up, they'll have a 4-year term, but it'll be an even year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So talk about bringing, how much time we got left? About 20 minutes. Okay. Talking about bringing people in, to keep money in Jackson. So what is one way that we can support businesses starting local?
Buy their stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was that easy.
Buy their stuff. I think that there's a lot of great businesses in Jackson, and some of them that are expanding outside of the city. I'm a big fan of RJ's. My daughter, every time she brings home a good report card, gets to go down there for like their crazy shakes that are like $14 sugar comas.
I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah.
I think I would literally go into a coma.
Yeah. But, buying their stuff. And I think similar to everything else, sharing online and promoting, their business to your friends and to folks outside of Jackson, because there's a lot of incredible businesses here and a lot of people doing some really incredible things that we should be proud of as a city.
Me and Rick Lemasters became pretty good friends. So I clearly support his businesses by eating at his businesses, but it seems crazy to me because why am I going to support McDonald's and pay $20 for me and her when I can go support Rick and pay $20 and get more food? Like it seems insane that we're even having this conversation with
actual
people.
food.
Yeah, and it's actual food, so you got that going for you too.
Because they have beer.
Yeah, but it's like shoot, dude. So that I can support. Amazon is really making it difficult. But then I look around Jackson and it's like, what do we really have retail wise? Walmart, Myers. I guess there's a lot of smaller retail stores, maybe. Walmart,
downtown.
Myers.
There's the pharmacy, but it's not really big
Miller's.
retail.
There's some boutiques and stuff
Yeah, there
downtown,
are.
and
Yeah.
they kind of they come and go and develop. There's been some anchors down there, but I think the Hayes Hotel is going to be a big project, and if that goes.
Awesome.
Just talking with the chamber, there's opportunity. I think they're almost at capacity for like another hotel in the downtown area. So once we kind of get like a convention center downtown with the Hayes, like I think that will breed a lot more opportunity for folks to come in and stay for a few days in the city for some sort of larger event. And those are the people really that are supporting some of that downtown retail, downtown restaurants, and things like that.
No, we kind of said that one time. We stayed at Lansing, we stayed in Ann Arbor. We lived in Lansing, but then we stayed in Ann Arbor. We stayed, cities
Yeah,
around
but
here.
the cost of the hotels downtown Ann Arbor are insane.
Insane. But still, at least all their downtowns have a hotel. We just always, or maybe I was talking to you about that last time. There's no hotel in Jackson, so it's like you got to drive over by Red Lobster to stay, but you want to hang out downtown. Well, then you got to get an Uber or a taxi or something of that nature, which isn't a big deal, but it would just be perfect if a hotel was right down here. So.
Absolutely.
What does leadership mean to you?
Well, it's a good question. I think that leadership is about first and foremost the ability to listen. And part of me, I've been on the city council, been vice mayor, and been mayor. I think most of my leadership, and I'm continually learning about how to be an effective leader. A lot of that comes from my experiences being the chief of staff at the Michigan AFL-CIO, of being able to manage at some points like 100 different staff, different departments, different divisions, different organizations. And a lot of it comes from the ability to understand one another, to have those relationships. And I think it means what I found applicable there from the individuals that I work with and supervise to the residents and businesses that exist here in the city capacity is folks want direction of like where we're going, either with an organization or with a city, a clear sense of direction, a vision, if you will. They want clarity in terms of like what we need to do to get there, and what in a business sense, what the staff and individuals need to do. And from the community sense, what different community agencies from just inside a city hall, what the different departments need to do in order to all help get towards whatever that vision is. And then I think whether you're a staffer or whether you're an individual living in the city or a business here, they want consistency as well. And I think if you can deliver the vision with the clarity and consistency, I think that that's a big chunk of being able to be a leader that people can follow and ultimately have confidence to be able to get to where we're going.
Okay.
Being up on the top floor, man, how is that up there, dude? because I drive downtown, I'm like, man, is that City Hall? That is City Hall. And then I go up to the top floor I was trying to solicit Mr. Mahoney into coming here, but he won't. but anyway, but I'm
Is
like,
it really solicitation if you're not selling?
no, okay, well, whatever. But it's got to be a hell of a view up there, right?
It is. It's a great view. Yeah.
Awesome.
It is. It's certainly humbling to look out and kind of see the whole city from up there.
Mhm.
It's also interesting to see some of the developments that are happening and kind of see the progression of the city over time. And
Mhm.
you know, I was existed back when the old Consumers, you know, downtown the building,
Mhm.
we tore that down.
Mhm.
We had the competition for the park there.
Okay.
You know, I did the wrote arts grants for what is now like True Community Credit Union, City Square.
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's
you know,
nice too. That's nice down there too.
Yeah,
That's
it's cool to see that stuff
Mhm.
kind of come into fruition. Projects that you've worked on to actually be a part of the city landscape.
Mhm.
And you know, it's interesting to also kind of be up there and see the different seasons and see how change continues to happen across the city. So,
Dude, I painted cars, and I'll drive by like a very unique car, and I was like, Katie, I painted that because I know I did
Mhm.
because of the color and whatnot. So, are you like that with your kids? Like, hey, I made that part.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, right on. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, dude.
yeah, that's cool. I mean, you know, there's in dedications and stuff, your name gets placed on things,
Mhm.
but you know, to be able to drive around and you know play with my daughter at you know, at Loomis Park or something like that, and see that park that you know we've invested significant money in, and to drive around at downtown and just the different aspects of some of the things that we're able to accomplish. It's certainly really humbling, and also for me exciting. It's exciting about the opportunity to get back into that role and work with the city to figure out what comes next.
My favorite author ever is Andy Andrews. He wrote The Traveler's Gift. I think I told you this last time, but I just read a quote that said, if I want to hang out with chickens, I'll squabble and peck the ground, or if I want to soar with eagles, then I'll fly like an eagle. And it just made me think about just everything going on lately in Jackson. There's a whole bunch of yelling, and you just hold yourself to a different standard, and I really respect that about you. A lot.
If you could have dinner with anybody at any point in history, who would it be and why?
Ooh, good question. You know, gosh, that is a good question.
And then a follow-up, because Nathan asked it, what would you eat?
Yeah, and what would you order? Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, my favorite food is pizza. I make my own pizza, make my own dough and stuff, just because it's so adaptable that you can just put whatever on it. So I feel like that's like not classy enough if I'm like sitting with like a great historical figure. I don't know. I'm pulling from, you know, different aspects of like my interests. You know, I'm a big history buff, so you know, I could go back to, you know, George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, have some of those conversations. But, you know, my side passion and like really maybe two side dorkinesses. One, I love like dinosaur stuff. I just like took my daughter to Mammoth Cave, and like it's not like it's in the cave, but like, you know, there's a bunch of rocks. Like they said down there, the only thing that you farm in Kentucky is like tobacco or like rocks.
Yeah.
But I bought like this mosasaur tooth, so I'm a big like dino junkie, and also a big space dork. So went and saw like Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Jealous.
I probably like this morning, because I had today off, while I was eating breakfast, like watched a documentary on space and, you know, quantum theory and relativity and stuff like that. So maybe like, I mean, Einstein, it's just kind of crazy that like, you know, individual that impactful on like our thought and like physics and stuff, like wasn't that long ago that he was here. Maybe him. Hubble would be cool. Like,
I thought you were gonna say Carl Sagan when you
yeah,
were talking
I
about
mean Carl
space.
Sagan too. Yeah. I mean something like that, because it's interesting to me to like, you know, step out of politics and to be able to engage about like kind of it also helps me. It's probably like a coping mechanism, right? Because like you talk about all the people that are like, you know, razzing you on social media and stuff like that, and to be able to like put what you're doing into a broader perspective and just layers and layers and layers out and thinking of like the universe and how big it is. And the fact that like, and I'm continually learning stuff too. But like just the fact that like up until like 1924, like we didn't really like know that like there were galaxies outside of like the Milky Way. It's like 100 years ago,
Yes,
you know, like, like not long ago. Anyways, not to go on a huge side tangent, but someone probably like that to talk about like space stuff.
Okay.
You know, I actually
Probably not the politician's answer, but
I think we did this backwards. Honestly, I wanted to do this because you were running for mayor and I wanted to re-interview you and whatnot. I feel like we mixed it up. We should have did your story this time because I really wanted people to see like Derek Dobies, not the mayor.
Well, they'll just have to go back and listen
yeah.
to that
Well,
one.
that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna share both of them then because no, dude, because that was like there are some people that I also hang out with that so Justin Counts. I'll just say his fucking name. So Justin Counts is not the biggest fan of you, but he does say how much he respects you, but the old guard does not like you, and he has said that time and time again. And well, and I really
right against the old guard.
yeah, well, and I really love Justin, and I really love you. So that being said, is well, you said politics don't matter. Like me and Justin can be friends. Me and you can be friends. Where was I going with that? I forgot. I forgot where I was going with that.
I would like to say though that we provide a forum for people to speak their story and their opinions and who they are, regardless of political affiliation. So I am not going to be as aggressive as some of the suggested questions we have received. Because it's just unnecessary. This should be like a safe space.
And it
to
will
be
always
able to
be
share,
here. It
and
will always be here.
We aren't going to change that. Based
I feel
on
safe
opinions.
here.
No, I'm
Thanks.
And you know, I mean, I like Justin. Justin and I have like engaged with each other and passed on projects and things like that. I think there are a variety of people that I think do good work for the city and the community in different ways. And you know, I don't ask everybody. I don't expect that everybody is going to support me or vote for me politically. And that even is, you know, Democrats that are far to the left of me as well, you know, so.
Well, and I guess I don't really remember why I brought that up, but I guess really what I'm saying is we're just in the business of people. Like we like people. I liked Russ. Some of his ideas are a little far out there, but I like it. Like we're just in the business of people, man. I don't, and I was thinking to myself, like, man, maybe I do need to pick a side. And no, I did pick my side right in the middle. I picked my side right in the middle.
I don't think it's about picking sides. I do like what you said earlier about being able to disagree without being disagreeable, because you can't hear anything when you are lobbing insults or throwing questions that are counterproductive to actually having conversation. Which is what I'm all about. I want to have a conversation. I want to know this person. You have to be personable to be able to have those deep conversations, because not everybody can just go up to somebody and ask them this insanely deep conversation without peeling the layers back first.
Amador actually said something to me which really stuck. He said, you will meet somebody, you will have something, you can get along with somebody, everybody in the world, the far left and far right. If you get them two together, they can agree on something. You just got to find what you can agree on.
Yep,
you know,
100%, and that's I think is true, and it's also why I think in the environment that we're in with the state of politics right now is the middle is continuing to shrink. People feel like they have to pick a side one way or another, and I think if as kind of a student of history and listening to a bunch of different podcasts outside of Prisoner to Painter, you recognize that, there's ebbs and flows where at different points I was just listening about on the way back up from Mammoth Cave about kind of the Kent State shooting and the reaction to kind of the Nixon administration and the polarization. I think it has different highs and lows throughout history, and I think we're in a highly polarized environment. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, and what it takes is us being able to listen to one another, talk to one another, and oftentimes those conversations are best one-on-one and in conversations like this, you know.
Well, and like I found out, so Jared Hopkins was my lawyer, and he's coming on Saturday. He's running for judge, and and that's what. Hey, we pride ourselves on that. You know, I really like him, and I really like you. You guys are like, we pride ourselves on that. I actually am. I'm happy about that. But I remember what I was going to ask about Justin. Well, maybe it's not about him specific. Do you think maybe some people, you're very educated. Do you think maybe that rubs people the wrong way sometimes? Well, you too, but I wasn't asking you.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have less education than a lot of my friends.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's from Michigan State. A lot of the other stuff that, you know, my city stuff has been self-taught. I mean, I went to school for political theory. I read Plato, Aristotle, John Rawls. Like, you know, I didn't go into urban planning. You know, I didn't have a finance degree. Like, you know, a lot of this stuff is picked up by just kind of learned experience and being able to be interested in something and figure out how to do it. So, you know.
They need to watch out for you, man. Dangerous.
He was nice about it. Yes, it rubs people the wrong way.
Well, I wasn't asking you because you were about to say, yup.
100%.
Okay, wrap up question. Well, not a wrap up questions yet, but we're almost there.
That one.
That one. Yeah. What do you think is a hidden gem of Jackson? Yeah.
I like that one.
What do you think is a hidden gem of Jackson? And you can't say Roxy's because that's not a hidden gem.
Yeah, Roxy's good. I mean, Blue Moon is good too.
Yeah.
I'm upset they don't have French fries.
Yeah. Let's see. Hidden gems. You know, gosh, it's hard because I've been around for a while, so I've like, you know, been able to, you know, go to, you know, Ella Sharp Park is great. I think that you know, Jackson Canyon Fudge Factory is like a cute little place. You know, the parlor. There's a lot of really cool spaces in Jackson that I think are little hidden gems.
I would have said Tommy Dog back in the day, but he's gone, unfortunately. Man.
You know, Schlinkers is cool. Yeah. That's kind of a unique place, you know, being able to like go back in time a little bit.
Literally go back in time.
Nickel Barrel open back up finally.
Yeah. That's been a drive by that every day. So
yep, we drive by it every day.
I have not gotten to go there.
Well, I drive by it before it opened, being like, man, is that place gonna open? But yeah, you know, I think there's a variety of different places. We actually just went to Optimus because the Lansing Curling Club like got run out of their like ice time, I guess, up in Lansing. So they're operating out of Jackson. So like that's like a cool little niche like thing I just found.
Okay, I don't understand curling.
You know what? I've done it. It's surprisingly harder than it looks.
Okay.
You know, there's an incredible amount of skill to it. I'm not good at it, but there's an incredible amount of skill.
My last question before I wrap up questions. We've asked you before in different phases of your life, who has been the most influential person in your life during this time, running for mayor again, maybe still being on the board at the school, you know, just this phase of your life?
Like I would say like in the last year, like I probably would say like Jeremy Patterson, like the superintendent of Jackson Public Schools. That
He's a cool dude.
it is, yeah, he's a cool dude. And like big family, big proponent of not only, you know, Jackson Public Schools, but also just Jackson generally. And, you know, serving on the Jackson School Board, you know, with everything, it's a learning experience.
Oh, sure.
And I come from a family of teachers and educators, so being able to be a part of that system I've been incredibly grateful for, and to see some of the things that they go through and some of the challenges that they face trying to educate our kids. But I had the opportunity to when Superintendent Beal retired and we're looking for kind of the next leader, Jeremy Patterson was there and stepped up. And I think as superintendent, we've been through a lot of the things together just in the past little bit of time that he's been there. And, he's been someone who I think, been able to take a lot of advice from and listen to and be able to work well with. So
I've been chewing. One more question before I wrap up questions, because I'm chewing on it and I was like, I don't want to ask it because we always relate, never compare. You know our spiel. I'm just going to ask it. I feel like everybody on the internet, all over Jackson, what are you going to do about gun violence? What are you going to do about gun violence? That's not something to ask the mayor. That's something to ask the gun owner in the home. That's something to ask. No, but seriously, that's not something to yell at the mayor. That is something that's something to ask your dad. That's something to ask your mom who has a gun. That's something to ask the person who owns the gun in the house. That's not something to yell at the mayor. So
yeah.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do about gun violence?
That's not something to ask me.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do
What are
about
you
it?
going to do about the hot button issues?
I think it's a great question. And gun violence is one of the big issues that we face here. I think that part of it is, like I said, under the 4 years that I was in office, violent crime, gun violence, murders went down over 27%.
Wow.
That was because we made an intentional effort, one, to support the cops, make sure they had the resources and staffing that they needed. We did a variety of different things there, but also to invest in kind of the community supports that are necessary to curb the gun violence that we see in Jackson. We know that less than 0.5% of the population is causing like 80% of the gun violence that we see here. It's like 200 people that are causing like 70-80% of that gun violence. When I was either vice mayor or mayor, I think mayor, we worked with Johns Hopkins University to study the violence that we saw here and to kind of map out who was doing it, what their connections and what their relationships were.
Understood.
And that was kind of part of our group violence intervention that we funded. That funding is lapsing at the end of this year, but I'm working right now on applying for a grant with Jackson Public Schools to continue that funding with some of the MDE money.
When you were mayor, did you start I believe there's a link to the city of Jackson that talks about the rates and the gun violence things. I used it for research when I was becoming a community health worker, because I did a little statistic thing on Jackson, and I believe it was something that started when you were mayor. It's this, oh God, I'd have to find the link.
Yeah, I don't.
But yes, I think. But it's the city of Jackson. You go in, you can look at the crime rates. You can look at the crime rates in locations. You can there's how things have changed. It's like a statistics on gun violence and violence within the city.
If you like it, then yeah, I did it.
I'm asking if that was something that went along
Potentially.
with that.
I created the city's, back when I was on the city council, I created the state's first open data policy to take some of the information that we have at City Hall and just make it public. So maybe that's part of that. It kind of sounds like what you're talking about is the group violence intervention
I believe it is.
stuff.
I'm gonna
So
see if I
that
can
was
look.
something that we started and funded for a number of years with some of the ARPA dollars, some of the federal relief dollars. Hoping to continue that and, ultimately try to do what we can to make Jackson a safer place. And like you said, one of the things there are a certain amount of things that we can do that the police can do. There are a certain amount of things that we can do leveraging relationships with community partners and some of those individuals that are involved in those groups. And then I think at an individual level, there are things, as a gun owner myself, I have 4 guns myself at my house that are safely locked up and secured with the ammo stored separately. And I have conversations, with my kid about what that is and the dangers involved. And one of the things that we just did at Jackson Public Schools is making sure that kids are engaging in those conversations with their parents. So taking home information about our gun laws and the safe storage laws to make sure that the parents have a responsibility to, if you're a gun owner, lock up your guns.
Well, and it just seems like a conversation that we shouldn't be having. I know I'm not to that age group yet because my dad would be like, oh, we had guns in the back of our truck when we went to school. Yeah, okay, well, I'm not from that era, okay, but I am from the era when it's like it started getting bad, and I'm like, why is this getting, like, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I couldn't. Now we're to this part to where we have to have this discussion. So it seemed like 20 years ago, we would not have been having this discussion.
You know, it's important. It's important.
Yep.
Sure.
So our wrap-up questions, we're going to tweak them just a little bit. What, well, first, is there anything I didn't ask that I should have? Is there anything you came on thinking I was going to say it and I didn't let you?
I don't think so.
Perfect. We did our job right twice. What is your definition of success if you take mayor this time for your third term?
If I'm elected mayor, you know, hopefully a city that is vibrant, that's inclusive, and one where people feel like their government is responsive and listens to them.
Yes, sir. Heck yeah. That's me. That's all you know.
Okay, so I already asked the question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Good question. You know, I think that, you know, both my parents passed when I was relatively young. Like I said, my mom passed when I was in like 5th grade, and my dad passed when I was like 10 months after I moved down here. You know, I think personally, the legacy that I leave behind is, you know, going to be my daughter and how I set her up for success. And hopefully, you know, what I can do with the time that I've given here is to be able to not only invest in her, but to invest in other kids and, you know, the future generations of Jacksonians, to make this community a great place for them to grow up in and to be able to stay in as well and raise their own family here.
That's all I got. I liked how you started with your daughter. I was expecting you to say Jackson first. You just, another layer of respect. So, Katie, got anything else?
She's the one that told me to run, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter.
Goodness.
What'd I do?
Little old me.
No. If you had one word to describe your entire political journey from where you started to where you will end up, what would that one word be? It has to be a real word.
Grit.
Grit.
Nice.
Okay.
Awesome. Derek,
Yep.
Thank you, man. We'll cut the cameras.
Thank
Will you
you.
sign
Awesome.
our new table?
Absolutely.
All right. Peace.